Ohio, Ohio, Ohio gozaimasu! Welcome everybody back to the Life of the Party podcast. I'm your boy once again, MC Ricky. Thank you for tuning in. I'm back at it with episode number 2 entitled The Wonder Years. So why is it called The Wonder Years? I was actually thinking about this to myself. You know, leading up to me getting into party promotion, there was like X amount of time after I came back from college where, you know, I was trying to figure things out. I was modeling, I was playing basketball, and that's actually when I started getting into the whole clubbing venture. So I thought about calling this episode Clubbing Scene and talk about the clubbing scene for a certain part of time when I was going out before I was actually being a hype man or MC, just rocking the crowd. But I said, you know what, let me call this the Wonder Years. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the venues that I used to go to when I was wanting to go out and have fun or whatnot. This, once again, is from my perspective. There's the older generation or the younger generation that has some certain venues that they would go to. I'm sure there's some notable ones. We're going back some years with this. I don't usually date myself, but I think when I start talking about some of the times, you'll kind of put two and two together. But hey, I think, and some other people would say that I look pretty good for my age. So, and I don't think I'm old, I'm just, I'm still kind of cool. But more specifically, the time period I'm talking about is about like the 02 to like 08, because leading up to my time getting into party promotion and becoming an MC, that was around the 2008 time frame. So I'll talk about some of the music that I was into or the artists that I kind of took to. Now, already in episode number 1, I talked about the first album that I was able to get my hands on was an album that my mom purchased for me, Nas. It was written album when I listened to If I Rule the World. I love that song to this day. But I honestly couldn't say that Nas was my favorite artist, but listening to that type of music and how lyrical he was kind of set the tone for how maybe I would kind of be as an MC. I'm known for some of the words that I use and my timing and how I execute between the beats per minute. That's what people seem to enjoy about when I MC. So I kind of will take credit for that type of East Coast rap that I took to when I was a little kid. But one thing, like when I was in college, I remember there was a concert that I went to. You may have heard of this particular artist. He was one of my favorites back around the 01, 02. Nelly. He had just dropped Country Grammar, and I remember being in the crowd, and I was so excited to see him, perform live. And I remember like vividly, he had this diamond studded necklace around his neck, and you could see that thing from afar. Like, if you're into electronics, there's a certain type of technology with TVs called OLED technology, and basically the viewing angle in any LED TV is really good. But on the OLED, it's just like, goodness gracious, you can be right next to it, looking at it from this direction, and you can still see a pretty good picture. That's how his neck was glistening. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely ridiculous. But it's one thing when you actually purchase the music. You back then, it was about buying CDs, and now of course it's all about streaming. I subscribe to Apple Music, and I kind of harken back to some music that I used to listen to. So that's really cool to do it that way. But back then it was all about buying CDs. So I had his CD, and I wanted to see him live, and he just so happened to be coming to the college that I was going to, and it was free, and he put on a show. And it was funny because he was with the Lunatics, who weren't really out yet, but he did some songs with the Lunatics. And of course, you can always, search this on the internet, Google search, or I heard there's an Apple search coming. Anyway, he performed with the Lunatics, so I got on board with that, and I just really took to the type of performance that he was doing. I mean, this goes with any artist. You have to know how to own a stage and perform. But that was a really cool first experience. Because it kind of was my first experience actually going to a concert. I used to always go to professional sports venues, and I was familiar with how to perform as far as sports, but I was just looking at, wow, okay, you really have to connect with the crowd. And it's like, it's something to see an artist look at you and feel you and look and just kind of be like, yeah, I'm talking to you. You know what I mean? That was really cool, and I really got a high off of that. What was really kind of interesting is that the concert actually abruptly ended. It was being conducted outside. It abruptly ended because there was these two ladies that started fighting. They started fighting over position in the front row. So when they saw that, security got involved, and then Nelly just dropped the mic and then just walked off. And then I was there just, you know, just being a nice guy that I am, or that I hope that people think I am. And I tried I was trying to break it up. And my grandma, I told her about what happened, and she was just like, Ricky, don't do that. You don't know what they might have on them. You never know what could happen. You be very careful. And I just didn't think about it like that. But yeah, growing up overseas in Japan is extremely safe. It's a bit of a culture shock every time I go back to the United States. So that was a big eye opener. But that was my first kind of experience with an artist, and I really took to Nelly. I got all of his music, I have all of his CDs since then. I also was a big fan, or am a big fan, of Fabolous, Fabolous. I had his first album. I remember listening to his music a lot. When I came back to Japan, after that bit in college from Southern Connecticut State, I went to a few more concerts. I remember Eminem was already pretty big at that time, but you may have heard of this particular artist named 50 Cent. Now, 50 Cent was kind of just coming on the scene. There was major hype about him, but Eminem was actually coming on his tour, whichever year that 50 Cent came out, maybe 02, 03 or whatnot. But I remember going to the album. I went with some friends from work, and I remember, because like I said, I won't say I was heavily influenced by Nelly, but I remember he had this clothing line. Not, of course, all the ladies and all the women, all the guys who from that time who would buy, stuff for their lady or whatnot, remember apple bottoms. So of course he had apple bottoms, but then Nelly was kind of before, if you know Flow Rider, all the youngins, all the younger millennials that know Flow Rider is basically like newer. Should I say newer? Is it right to say that? He's kind of like a different version of Nelly. But Nelly had this clothing line called Focal. So I actually was all decked out in Focal for this concert. And 50 Cent was there as well. But it was interesting to see. We were just like, okay, we're here for Eminem. Eminem had a lot of hits. Of course, we know Eminem was backed, signed by Dr. Dre, and then Eminem went on and backed 50 Cent, who was, because he was backed by Eminem, he was backed by Dre, and it goes on up. So 50 Cent was there, and oh my goodness, like there were so many people. This was in Chiba at the big stadium there. And they have, if you ever been to Japan and gone to this, usually they reserve this particular venue for like Beyonce, Jay-Z, like people that they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, I imagine, to fill this arena. Because I know how much I paid. I know how much I paid for myself to go see Eminem and 50 Cent. Like I say Eminem and 50 Cent because Eminem was the headliner, but 50 Cent at this time was like people were just anticipating, his coming. And when he hit that stage, it was absolute fire. There's other artists that I got to see live, but I got to see them live because later on down the road, which I'll cover in other episodes of Life to the Party podcast, I actually hosted the event. So that's a little bit different than going as a fan versus doing your job. It's always great to do something that you have love and passion for. I grew to have love and passion for, and that's being an MC. But I actually got to see T.I as well, kind of when he first was on the scene. So those are just some of the artists that I saw. And I harken back to that time because, I kind of saw how you have to use the crowd. You have to call out the crowd. You got to make sure that everybody is rocking with you, that you see somebody on the side that's kind of just chilled out. No, you want to call them out. And I kind of noticed how a lot of artists would do that. Now, it's a lot easier for them because they're already rich and famous, and it's easier for, I guess, the fan to kind of get into them because they already have a lot of content and they can connect to them a lot quicker and easier. But that's something that I kind of took and I adapted to my style as an MC. But before I got into that, just the clubbing scene, I went out a little bit when I was in college, but I really focused more so on my grades. I was on the dean's list, and I really wanted to show that I wasn't here for nothing, and I wanted to show my family that the money wasn't going to waste. So I did a good job with that. Growing up, like I said, overseas, I was affiliated with the military. My dad was in the military, and he's a retired veteran. So big shout out to him once again. There's a particular military installation surrounded by the city of Fussa. So there's two notable venues I used to go to early on, and like I said, there's other venues that other people may be wondering about that I'm not going to talk about, and this because this is from my perspective. But one of them I think a lot of people can relate to because it's still around now. Of course, it's a lot different, but I'm talking about Club Crunk, and then another club was called Roots. So Club Crunk was on this street called Bar Row, and this is speaking strictly from the hip hop culture. Of course, there are other genres out there, but at this time, now I'm more broad based. I'm all over as far as music. I listen to all types of music, but during this time, I was really taken to solely just the hip hop culture. So I dressed it, I lived it, I talked it. During this time, I actually would go to the club early to dance. Like I said, I mentioned in the first episode that I was kind of a notable dancer, or I would get modeling jobs through dancing. So I'd get there kind of early to dance. Now, for those who are in the US, if you're watching this podcast, or if you are listening to it, things are a little bit different in Japan. Typically in the States, the clubs open at 11 and close like around 1 or 2, depending on where you're at. In Japan, the clubs will open up early, but basically they close at 5 a.m. So everyone typically will get there between 12 to 1. You can find somebody get there at 2 a.m. and you're not late. So it's really an all-nighter. So it's probably not the best thing in the world to do on a consistent basis, but I guess when you kind of condition yourself to it, you get used to it. So you get people who would come in from the US and be like, all right, so we're ready to go out. It's like 11 and be like, no. It ain't time to go out yet, bro. It's time to pregame. So we pregame and then you go out. So, but it also makes a world of difference when all you have to do is just walk, a few blocks down the street to go. So people will go to Club Crunk. Like I said, from the 2002 to 2008 time frame. This is in the midst of early on like crunk music, Lil Jon, East Side Boys, Dirty South. I think I saw something online where people used to call it the Dirty Decade was 97 to 2007 or whatnot. But this particular venue, Club Crunk, had a heavy military demographic because of course it was in close proximity to this military installation. Then on top of that, you just have all of the local nationals, women and men that would come down because they wanted to get that taste of the hip hop culture coming from this particular demographic. So every Friday, and like mind you, Club Crunk is not big at all. It's not like this big massive venue. It's in all honesty, it's actually a bar, and it would just be dumb in there, just packed, crowded, and you could hardly move. But I mean, just the sheer amount of people and the amount of fun and potential that could happen. I use that word quite a bit. The potential that could happen kept a lot of people coming, and a lot of DJs that played there, I'm still friends with to this day. They're off doing their thing still. As well as I'm, just in the midst of everything, just finding other avenues to stay relevant. But Club Crunk holds a special spot in my heart because that's kind of like the first venue where I started going and being known, and I got to know the staff there and the DJs, and we used to go out to other venues and whatnot. So a lot of people would venture from Friday. There's other military installations that are around in the mainland of Japan, but the local nationals and all the eye candy or whatnot would come down on Friday night to Club Crunk. Now, on Saturday night was more reserved for, all right, so the people in this particular, or in Fussa, the Fussa demographic, that's when we would kind of go out in town. We would maybe go to the Tokyo metropolitan area or the Yokohama metropolitan area. I won't talk about about the Tokyo metropolitan area, because during this time, while I would venture out there every once in a while with friends, I didn't really take to that atmosphere. I more or less, I liked the Yokohama atmosphere. I liked the music, and I liked the scene that was coming from there. Like I said, this was in the midst of the Dirty South, the crunk music, rep your city, and that type of mentality and mindset. So I really liked being in like part of that culture. Now, mind you, when I went to these venues, or this particular venues in Yokohama that I used to always go to, Club Circus, which I kid you not, I would go there on a Saturday. And the first time that we went there, I remember we drove up there, and we went 3 straight weekends after that. This is how good this place was. And then this is, once again, now I guess you can say we were kind of small city boys, you know, coming from the country, because Fussa is honestly the country. It's basically the nearest largest city is Tachikawa or Hachioji, and those are bigger. But Fussa basically is like the installation, the military installation, and everything's kind of wrapped around it. So, you know, we go to Yokohama, and Yokohama is just bigger. It's the big city, and all the venues are bigger, and there's something in the water. We always used to say, like, there's something in the water. That's the reason why we went there in the first place. It's like people have said, "Have you been to Yokohama before?" I said, "Nah." Like, is it good? Like, it's something in the water. I'm telling you, Rick, you need to go. All right, we'll check it out. So we drove up there, and we went 3 straight weekends after that. And mind you, you know, we didn't care about the money. This particular venue, Circuit, was like 3,000 yen to get in, which that is roughly about $30 during that time. I can't remember what the yen rate was, but we spent about 3,000 yen. There was a line to get in. The club is actually underground, so you can see the line outside. You wait to go underground. You know, you check your IDs, this, that, and the other, and then you go through a gauntlet where there's lockers. Golly, spit it out. You got lockers on either side. So you go through the gauntlet of lockers, and meanwhile, you're seeing the potential just, you know, changing. You know, the guys are taking off their jackets. The women are taking off their outside shoes, putting on their inside shoes. Anyway, you go through there, and then you step down, and mind you, that the gauntlet is lit up. So it's just very attractive looking. So then anyway, you step down off that gauntlet, you look to your right, you got the bar. And the first time we looked at that bar, and it says, bring your own bottle. And we didn't know that at the first, but then we're just like, you can bring your own bottle in here? I was like, this is wild. This is crazy. This is crazy. So anyway, you can bring your own bottle in there. Oh, in the midst of the Dirty South era, goodness, you can just only imagine what used to go down in there. But anyway, not here to incriminate anybody, but you look at the bar, and all the drinks, no matter what it was, they're all 300 yen, like $3, $3 or less, or $5 or less. So we're just like, okay, you know. So all right, so then, you know, we go ahead and get our drinks or whatnot, and then we turn around, and we get to the dance floor. The dance floor is kind of elevated off of the normal floor. So you can go in there, you can dance, and then you go look off to the left-hand side. There's nothing but couches, and then you can see the potential just sitting there. And it's just like, oh, this is how this is. Okay. And then the VIP, it looked like a bunch of sound rooms. Like, this looks like this used to be some type of electronic. I have to get another look at it again, but it almost like there were sound rooms connected, because there was like glass in between. And then, you know, you see the people in there with their bottles and whatnot. So people will go to Circus, and Yokohama is close to. There's a number of installations around there, so everyone would go for that demographic. So what we would do, or what I would do, is go to Crunk on Friday and then go to Yokohama on Saturday. Now there's different venues, so you had Club Circus on Saturday, and then it would switch off. It would be Club Circus in Yokohama, which is in the Ishikawacho area. For all the people out there in Yokohama, shout out to Yokohama. For years, people thought I actually lived in Yokohama because I was there so much. Nope. Anyway, you would go to Matrix. So Matrix actually used to be called Heaven before, and there was a particular promotion group that used to bring some artists and stuff. And I'll talk about this promotion group a little bit later in another episode. But this was actually the biggest venue that I would go to, and it was at Club Matrix, and this was just like a amped up version of Circus. that played just really good music for the time, and just had everything that you would want in a club from all standpoints, whether it's the security, the bartenders, the men, the women, the entertainment. Like I said, we get there like 1 o'clock, the line would be all the way outside. We get in there and we stay until 5 in the morning. But anyway, and then you also had Yokohama Bay Hall, which is right across the street from Matrix. And that was Yokohama Bay Hall is more of a concert hall. So they would bring artists, and that's where I actually saw T.I for the first time. And that was really cool. So those are the 3 venues in Yokohama that I would frequent quite often. In between going to Club Crunk on Fridays. Club Crunk was like every Friday. There was another venue in Yokohama called Club B, which was more the same. Like all the clubs in Yokohama pretty much all kind of interconnected as far as that music. I should say all the venues that I used to go to were all kind of interconnected as far as the music they would play in that hip hop genre. And on Saturdays in my Fussa City hometown, we would go to this club called Roots, and there's a particular drink that I was kind of known for, not so much now, but there was a drink that was called the Kamikaze, and some of my friends and other MCs and other promotion groups, they would say, hey, you drinking a Kamikaze? And I don't think they ever knew like why I started drinking it, but this particular venue, I had it there for the first time and I really liked it. So that's kind of what I started drinking. If I was going to have a drink, I usually start off with a Kamikaze just to kind of get my juices flowing and stuff. So, but people would come and go to Roots, and like, mind you, like this is not just demographic around this Fussa area. So there's people that would drive down or take the train all the way from other parts of Japan just to come to this particular venue on Saturday, or go to Club Crunk on Friday. So like I said, Club Crunk on a Friday had a huge military influence, and then that military influence would switch to Saturday at Roots, which was, there's a train station that they're separated by. So basically you just hop the tracks, or go on the other side of the train station, and then you can go to Roots. There's a police box just right there at the station, so people had to kind of be on their best behavior, which didn't always happen. But in the midst of all of the music that was coming out during this time, there were some times where people got a little too amped up. I remember one time at Circus, they were playing. If you're a fan of Boyz II Men, I was actually a huge fan. Like I said, of hip hop and R&B. Really took the Boyz II Men. Like I said, my originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Boyz II Men are from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I remember the DJ dropped the song "I'll Make Love to You," and it still would not stop what was going on in this particular venue, Circus. Like there was some type of argument, and everything just escalated. And once it escalated, it was just like, all right, it's not going to stop. Can you imagine seeing just utter destruction, while Boyz II Men, I'll make love to you. Can you imagine that? Oh my goodness. And mind you, like I told you in episode 1, I really took the P. Diddy and the Family or Puff Daddy. I've always tried to get my Diddy on. Like I would go to the venue, and I used to go there early to dance, but I would always mindful of my surroundings. Like my dad taught me that, and my brother that. Always be mindful of your surroundings. And I know when I need to go ahead and get out of there. So I'm sitting there off in the corner just like, man, nah. And all my partners are with me too, because look, we're not from here. This is whatever is going on. This ain't us, But that was really cool, and that was really fun. So that was, as far as the night ventures, those are the particular venues I used to go to. That's just from Yokohama and the Fussa City. There's other venues. If you've ever been to Japan, and I wouldn't doubt for a second that you've been to Roppongi. But Roppongi during this time, now mind you, like I told you, like I was into hip hop base. So all these venues in Yokohama and and Fussa, or these are all hip hop based. Now, there's other genres, of course, that I didn't frequent. So that was my circle, and I'm not knocking any other circle. I know there's other circles out there, but that was what I was into from that '02 to '08 time frame. But that's just one of the things I was doing during those wonder years, and but leading up into me, getting into party promotion. I told you I was modeling, so I came back, and while I was in high school, I told you I would get called regularly for auditions and stuff, but I was so preoccupied with playing sports. That's what I wanted to do, and aspirations for that. Let me tell you about a situation that I was put in because of sports. During the Wonder Years, there was a couple notable jobs that I got during this time frame. I got a bunch of them. I can't honestly say that like I was a professional model, but I would just get regular gigs. Like I wasn't doing like the fashion runway and things of that nature. It's very difficult for me to fit into a pair of, those skinny jeans. I'll just say that. I actually was playing basketball at this time for the base team, which is my dad. When he was playing, like I said, he was in episode 1, he was an all Air Force guard. He played for what they call the Yokohama Raiders. And when I came back from college, I started playing for the Yokohama Raiders at that time. Now they're actually called the Yokohama Warriors. But I was playing, and then that's when I was traveling, playing basketball. But at the same time, I was also playing basketball for a Japanese league as well. I was playing simultaneously. So I was going out, having fun, working, and playing basketball, and traveling to all over the Pacific with the base, and then playing basketball in this Japanese league. During this particular time frame, there was a pro tryout that I was invited to. During the pro tryout, I actually had a severe high ankle sprain. It turned out to be I never actually got it diagnosed as a stress fracture, but I had pretty bad bruising, and it took a while, and then I had plantar fasciitis in my right ankle for a long time. So I was out for X amount of time because of that. It seemed like a year I was out. During that time, that's when I started getting more gigs. It's like I can't play basketball. I have to take it off or whatnot, and I started getting more modeling jobs. During this time frame of these years, I was in 2 movies. So I was in one movie called Bubble Go with Hiroshi Abe, and of course there's some other stars in there. But that was about a week and a half experience where I was acting. I was playing a part in this movie, and it comes on every year in Japan. And every once in a while, I watch it. Of course, I have it on DVD. That was a really cool experience. I'll always remember that. And then I landed another movie gig shortly after that. And then I started getting more. I got some gigs for Nike. I got some gigs. I got one for Adidas, and one for Panasonic for the Olympics, being pictured in magazines regularly. And then that's when, with me going to the venues, I started getting noticed by this particular promotion group. And I used to go to some of their parties, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really take to the whole party promoters during this time leading up to 2000 to 2008 or whatnot. There was a lot of different party promoters, but I honestly didn't really pay attention to them that much. I just paid attention to the party that I was going to. So I had a lot of respect for them doing their thing, but I always looked at how the party was being run. If people were having fun, if the music was good. And this one particular promotion group approached me a couple of times in these particular venues, and from what I remember, this person telling me is that he had kind of been watching me. He kind of liked my vibe. And there's another person who was in the group who was talking to him, and they were had been talking about me for a while, and they asked me if I was interested, and I wasn't really interested at first, but then I kind of gave in, and that's what I'll kind of cover in the next episode of Life of the Party podcast. But the particular promotion group, those who know me, those who know I've been here for a while, this particular promotion group was SBE, Straight Bangin' Entertainment, and I remember going to a number of their events, one in particular around the Fussa area. It was called Certified, and I just absolutely loved that event. That was probably the first time when I was like, who So who, and then just the way that it was marketed and the way that they carried themselves, I thought it was really cool. Like like I said, I can't knock any other promotion group. They have their own set of rules and their own set of guidelines how they want to pursue a party or throw a party or dress or act or whatnot. That's, to each his own. But this, I was sold. I was sold right away. And I really enjoyed it. And I think it worked out for me because as I get further along and I talk about just some of the parties, I'll talk about some of the events that I've hosted, whether it's the first time my name was ever on a flyer. I was a host MC for Lil Jon back in 2008. And that was really neat. And then going on to more and more venues. So that's about it as far as episode 2 is concerned. Going forward with more episodes, I'll be talking a little bit more about the setup I have here, what's behind me, where I get the inspiration for these kukui nut lays. Yes, I do know what they are. Some people may ask, why is he wearing the beads? But I'll get into that. I want to bring everyone along this kind of journey on the Life of the Party podcast. I'll be talking about some notable movies that I love, and whether it's from the actual movie itself or maybe it's the soundtrack or the music in the movie that I kind of take to. But that's about it. So once again, this was episode 2, the Wonder Years, what I kind of was doing that time from the 02 all the way up to 08 before I got in the party promotion. If you have any suggestions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Send me a comment, give me a like. This podcast is on YouTube, of course, as you're watching it right now, but it's on Apple Podcasts as well. Subscribe, give me a like, send me a holler. Much appreciated. Once again, this is Mr. Ohio, aka MC Ricky. Otsukaresama deshita. I'll see you guys in the future.